The story thus far. I believe some scribblers have fallen into the habit of beginning their brief romances with the words, the story thus far, giving a brief chronicle of previous events before coming to the very meat, the heart, the most recent twist of the narrative. So lend me your ears and attend carefully whilst I tell you of the story thus far, before I delight and astonish you with the ending, wherein virtue triumphed, vice was punished, and I, Malvolio, obtained a most glorious revenge. The story thus far was written by an actor turned scribbler, one Shakespeare or Shakenstaff, some such name which slips easily from the memory, and it was not well written either. When played upon the stage, where it grovelled for easy laughter from the sweaty groundlings, it was called Twelfth Night. What you will! But I would have named it The Heroic Suffering and Pitiable Fall of the Most Noble Malvolio, High Steward to the beauteous Lady Olivia, who was a victim of foul plotting and cunning treachery engineered by the Lady Olivia's drunken cousin Sir Toby Belch, and his whore, the housekeeper Maria. The Lady Olivia, whom I served as High Steward and Master of the household, was being wooed by the Count Orsino, who sent to her a girl named Viola, dressed as a boy named Cesario, to plead his cause. And it was with this girl in breeches, this boy with concealed bosoms, that my lady fell in love. Such was the love story in Shakespeare's play, in that part tedious. The true tragedy concerned my hideous fate at the hands of the villains and lechers my lady kept about her. Principal among these was the said bloated, fiery-nosed, great-bellied wine-sack of a kinsman, Sir Toby Belch, who played a foul trick on me, together with his bedfellow, the whore and housekeeper Maria, and that poor forked radish of a fool, Sir Andrew Aguecheek, who came to woo my lady and paid Sir Toby money for it. Oh, yes. And the others in the plot. That poor sad jester who sang like the wind in a cracked glass. And Fabian, the manservant who still had some small spark of decency in him. Maria forged a letter to me in which she confessed undying love. Indeed, I thought I had noticed a certain look of affection in her eye. And in this false letter, she bade me wear yellow stockings with cross gartering and to smile at her constantly. And she would do me great favors. This I did, at some risk to myself, for the cross-gartering caused a restriction of the blood from which the veins in my legs have never fully recovered. But when I smiled steadfastly at my lady in front of the whole household, they all swore I had run mad, and being a dangerous lunatic should be locked up in some darkened room, to which my lady's stone heart agreed. And all this because I had rebuked Sir Toby and the others for their lewd and drunken singing late at night. And in the case of Sir Toby and the wanton Maria, for exchanging slobbery kisses. And the touching of each other's privates, particularly when they thought I might be looking. Well, it was Fabian who revealed the plot to my lady. She ordered my release and uttered some half-hearted apology. But I was resolved to leave that cursed house and never look back, much as Lot and his wife were instructed not to look back at Sodom and Gomorrah, those unnatural and vicious cities of the plain. But before I quitted that cursed house, I uttered the noble and terrible line, "I'll be revenged on the whole pack of you." No doubt conscious of her guilt in this matter, my lady sent Fabian after me to beg me to return. But I was no Lot's wife. He offered me a bag of gold coin by way of compensation, but I would not be bribed. However, when he left the said bag upon the road, I stooped to pick it up, and lest it should fall into the hands of such as Sir Toby, who would drink it up and damn their souls in the process. No. I would put the money to do God's work and feed my revenge when the time was ripe. Now, I had long held an interest in my lady's dresses, and often used to discuss with her seamstresses their cut and fine trimming. So, I used the money Fabian had left upon the road to set up as a lady's tailor in some distant town. I employed women to do the work, and treated them well, with plain board, straw mattresses, and a shilling a year as wages. I soon made a fine living, and spent it to the glory of God, founding a home for poor children where the Bible and the fear of hell might be beaten into them, and their souls thus saved by my generosity. Soon my wealth grew, and I was made alderman, and then mayor, with permission to have a gentleman's coat of arms. I chose as my shield a Bible between crossed needles. I had news of Sir Toby and his pack from travelling peddlers who sold my laces and ribbons across the country. They told me that my Lady Olivia's new husband had sent them all packing, and that they now inhabited a sort of ruined manor, the property of Sir Toby's old aunt, stone blind, so she never knew how many lodged with her. Sir Toby had never married Maria, although he had promised her many times, and the motley crew were living on what remained of Sir Andrew Ague-Cheek's dwindling inheritance. They told inquirers they thought I was dead, of old age, and resentment. Now, I had among my seamstresses a parson's daughter of some education who had been sent away from home for lechery and childbirth. Remembering how I had been driven near to madness by a forgery, I had her forge a letter to Sir Toby purporting to come from a wealthy widow, a certain Mistress Marmion. And in this letter, she vowed she had seen Sir Toby in church and in other people's houses, and had fallen so lovesick of the old wineskin that her only wish was to marry him and settle her dead husband's fortune on him. To this end, she suggested a meeting in an upstairs private room of the Bull Inn in some nearby town. But she insisted that Sir Toby should bring with him his full household in fine livery to prove to her that he was not merely marrying her for money, this letter delivered to Sir Toby by one of my travelling pedlars, who reported back to me that Sir Toby, on reading the letter, threw his hat in the air, downed another pint of sack, and promptly spent some of Sir Andrew Aguecheek's dwindling inheritance fitting out the clown and Maria in fine scarlet and lace. So, the meeting in the Bull was arranged. Now, who, you may ask, was this Mistress Marmion? I bid you remember that in earlier times a lovesick count sent as his messenger of love to my lady a young man. But this young man with whom my faithless lady fell hopelessly in love was not a young man at all, but a pretty girl in breeches with a sword hung at her side. So, thought I, if a young girl called Viola can become a young man named Caesarion, why should not a man named Malvolio become the Mistress Marmion? I had my seamstresses make for me a fine black dress, and to my measurements, with stiff bodice studded with seed pearls, and a certain padding to the bosom. And I chose for myself a wig, such as some of my balding and elderly lady customers wore. And then I threw a black lace veil about my face, and there was I, in an upstairs bedchamber of the Bull Inn, ready and willing to take my revenge on Sir Toby. He came to me, all red and smiling, bursting out of his doublet, wiping his hand over his mouth and smelling of old ale and pickled herrings. Downstairs, meanwhile, Sir Andrew Aguecheek and the rest of the crew were drinking up what remained of Sir Andrew's money. Upstairs, the drunk Sir Toby was promising to lust after love, honor, and obey me, to kiss my foot, to embrace my ankle, to be my slave forever. Only, and here he staggered towards me holding a candle, let me see that beautiful face that I may salute it with 1,000 kisses. And then let's make good the contract between the sheets. At this, I threw off my wig, tore off my veil, and held a candle under my chin so that he might see my face. Malvolio! Sir Toby staggered back, astonished. I thought you were dead. What trick is this? I am dead, I told him, but my spirit has returned to earth in the form of a wealthy widow intent on marrying you. You may find me cold comfort between the sheets, unless your fancy is to embrace a corpse. At this, I let out a great scream. Sir Toby's brain, much weakened by sack, lechery, and tobacco, finally cracked, and he ran, yelling in his fear from the inn, and sometime later, as I understood, renounced his evil ways and became a monk, employed to sweep the floors in some Benedictine order. The others, meanwhile, unable to pay for the food and wine they had consumed in the hope of Sir Toby's great marriage, were set in the stocks and had their liveries sold to pay the reckoning. Sometime later, I encountered Maria, begging in the streets, and out of the kindness of my heart, I took her on as a seamstress for bed and board, with no wages. Often I have seen her sobbing for the loss of old Sir Toby. Sir Andrew Aguecheek, bankrupt by this time, did as he'd long promised, and drowned himself. The clown, unable to find a family to protect him, took to the streets to earn coin as a strolling player, for which offence I reported him to the watch, and he was whipped for flouting the laws against rogues and vagabonds. But what I remember most now is the pleasure of that dress. Sometimes, when I am quite alone, I put it on, together with the wig, and I see myself, and the black velvet, and seed pearls, and my face beneath the golden hair. And I think, what a fine figure I made as a woman, and how sweet was my revenge.